Back in the beginning of the internet days, Google disrupted everything with their search. And today, I'm going to share with you what's powering my research on the internet, and it's no longer Google. In fact, it's taken over the default role in my browser, but it does a lot more than just search the internet. It provides answers, it understands what I'm trying to do, and it even helps me write. So today, I'm going to share with you the secret of my success in research, and we're going to take a deep dive into Perplexity.AI. I'll show you not only how it helps me daily, but all of the ways that I'm using it. So I want to take you through how I've set things up for myself and how I use Perplexity on a daily basis. There's three things I need to show you. First is there is a Chrome extension that you can install for Perplexity that allows you to click the link in your toolbar and type in anything. And it even gives you the option to choose your focus right here. Now I've got that set to all. So I can type in anything here from any page and it's really easy to access. The second option is, as I mentioned in the introduction, I've replaced Google. So instead of using the Google default search option, I have set up Perplexity to be my default search of choice. So if I type in a query and hit enter, it will treat Perplexity just like it would Google, and it will complete the search. But I want to go one step further and show you how I've configured this so that I have a window in my Windows taskbar that opens Perplexity. And the way that you do that, if you go up to your settings menu here, there is an option in this menu that lets you do save and share. And if you look at the save and share, there's an option in here that lets you create a shortcut. So if I click that, then I'm just going to rename this. I'm going to call this Perplexity, if I can spell it right. And then I'm going to choose open as a new window. And when I do that, you won't be able to see it, but it's on my toolbar. I can go down to the taskbar and pin that to my taskbar. And then I've always got a program ready to go for Perplexity. So if I close my browser window now, I can actually come back in here and choose Perplexity from my toolbar, and it will open up Perplexity. And so now if I just launch my Perplexity shortcut from the start menu, that will open up a full page site for Perplexity. And that's the way that I default use this most of the time. I sit down and I know that I'm going to be doing a session. So I just open that up and off we go. Okay, so now that we've got our basic setup going, I want to take you through what a typical session looks like for me. Now, I am a pro user of Perplexity, but just to kind of show things off to you a little bit right now, I've turned the Copilot option off just so you can see what that looks like for the time being. And as I go into this, there's a couple of things that I want to showcase. Now, the first is just the default view here. I can go and take advantage of Discover, and there's some more recent news items that are available. We can click on those and read about the news, so they're continuing to enhance that situation. But if I just start with home, I can type in whatever it is that I want to go after. And they've even got an autocomplete here that covers some of those Discover items. And then typically I start with the focus button. What is it that I'm trying to do? Am I just doing everything? In this case, I am. And I'm going to go in and type in a query. Tell me about the latest news in open source large language models. And we'll let that run. And it's going to go out and grab some sources. And then it's going to come back and tell us about what the most recent news items are. Now, here's the thing. The answer that you get here may or may not be what you're looking for, and that's typical of any large language model experience. For me, what this typically looks like is reading the response it gives me, and then taking a look at some of the citations that it's using for deciding what I'm going to be looking at. And that's where I start. The other area that is really useful is that you can specifically search videos. And this is where you get some different answers. It looks like some of the videos that come up here are relevant to
Hey there, AI
YouTube sources,
enthusiasts.
and we're going to talk
Welcome back
about.
to our channel.
So that's super convenient. And I find that to be a really useful quick jump option. But we can go back to our search where we were looking before and continue the conversation. Now, there's a lot of things that I use Perplexity for during my day, and one of those things is I do quite a bit of social media. I do some writing. So what's really useful is I can actually put this in writing mode. So let's say I'm working on the latest newsletter, and I'd like to write a little about how you can get started using large language models in your daily life. Let's create a top 10 list with tools like Perplexity. And now here's where this is a little bit different, right? The default mode of Perplexity is to provide the sources that go along with the thing that you're searching for. But because we have chosen the writing mode, we aren't getting all of those annotated answers. It's just going straight into writing mode. And this is helpful because sometimes you don't really care about the citation as much as you care about the actual writing itself. So I can quickly copy that and take that wherever I need to go. You can quickly start a new thread and it remembers where we were. It defaults to the previous mode that you were in, and off you go. Now, let's say you want to do a document search. Well, there's a lot of opportunities in your document search. We can take advantage of searching papers. So if we take a look at our daily papers, we've got a paper in here that we can search that is recent. And I can say, tell me all about this paper. And we can just start a regular conversation. You've seen all of that before. This is a pretty typical experience. We do have a limitation of 25 megabytes. We also have a limitation of the number of files that you can upload and search on a daily basis. For free users, it does limit you to, I think, 3 separate files on a daily basis. It's more than that for the pro users. So I can do this a lot more simply by being a pro user. So I'm going to go out and grab a paper. I've got a few important papers that I kind of keep track of. We'll just go with this one here. I've titled it Only Prompting, and it's going to get interesting. I'm learning about how it's possible to get great results without the need to build a model. The file I have uploaded provides insights, but are there other groups that have come to the same conclusion? Summarize the paper so I can be sure I understand it. And what I've done here is I've given it the paper, and the paper's title, as you can see from the search, is The Unlocking Spell on Base LLMs. Apparently someone's already created a YouTube short on this topic. It's found the paper on archive, in addition to the file that I gave it, and there's a number of social sources like Hugging Face and others like Reddit that it's getting supplemental information from. Now, it's building the answer for me, and it's using all of those sources in coming up with that answer. What I like about this is that it really simplifies the process of getting down to the important bits of information that are in the paper. As you can see, looking at what it did in Copilot, it was reading the file I gave it. It was doing a search. It was considering 10 of the results that were in that search, and then it was putting all of that together in a nice little summary. And here's one of the key bits of information that I want to share with you. After it finishes doing that work, it actually provides some additional questions that I can just click to continue digging into the paper and learning more about the aspects that are in it. So it's sort of a guided prompt. Now, you can do this with tools like ChatGPT by actually putting in a system prompt or custom prompt that allows you to say, make a suggestion on what I should do next. And that's pretty useful, but you don't have to tell Perplexity to do that. It does that as a part of its default behavior. And I can actually click on the plus sign and it will go ahead and launch that query next into the session. While it's answering that next question, I'll also point out that it provides some pretty useful icons here. We can do a rewrite. We can instantly share this result just like we would with something like ChatGPT. It will give a direct URL so that you can share that with someone else. You can view all of the sources in line, look through them and see what they are. And then you can, of course, copy that response. You can edit the query, and then it tells you here that I'm currently using Claude 2.1 for that response. Now, we know that Claude has a very large context window by default, so you can put some pretty large books even. Perplexity does have a limit of 25 megabytes for each file attachment, so you could get a lot of characters inside of that 25 megabytes, but if there's a lot of graphics inside of your file, it might be more difficult to get that into the upload for answering a question. Now, the other thing that I'll show here is that in this sidebar, there's these choices where you can actually specifically search images, search videos, and even generate an image. Now, I don't find the image generation to be the most critical, useful feature there is today, but it is added into the search. It makes it really nice and accessible, and you can immediately jump to it by just clicking through on the default page. I think that's an interesting feature that Perplexity is continuing to develop. These are things that have been added over time, and these are a fairly recent addition. There's also been quite a bit of augmentation that they've done in the default page. If there are relevant images to a search, it will bring those into the search page as well. Now, let's go through the rest of the interface here and talk about a few really useful bits of information. The first is this idea of adding it to a collection. Now, I've got a series of collections that I've built for myself that I'm using to track things. And look, we're doing something for YouTube, so I'll go ahead and add it to my YouTube collection. I can title this search. So we're going to do unlocking spell because that's what this paper is about. And now I can come back to this and easily find that in my library at any time. Here you can see all of my searches. I can go in here and click to YouTube, and it will show me all of the relevant searches for YouTube. I can go right back to that thread. It's much, much more easy to find the things that I'm looking for in this interface than the one that we have with ChatGPT. I find that Perplexity is a muchly improved user interface over every other tool that's available today. I can't say that it's the best because I haven't seen all of them, but I really like this interface. A couple of other really interesting things that really just show up as you're using the tool. If you go to the Discover page, they are constantly tracking and adding new interesting stories. If you have the iPhone app installed like I do, and I imagine they do the same thing on Android, it does have the option for alerts. Interesting news items will pop up and they'll provide you a link to the story. That keeps you using the app. I think that's useful for them, and oftentimes it provides enough about what it is that I want to look through that it's good enough. And really, honestly, the best feature in terms of it surfacing these stories is there are no ads because the answer is generated by Perplexity and written out in long form. So it also keeps me from spending too much time reading the news. So coming back to home here, we've got a couple of other options. Let's go back to the focus and just show you a little bit what that's about. I'm trying to learn how to do calculus. What are some essential equations and practices used for calculus? So now we've told it that we want it to stick to Wolfram Alpha, so it's specifically going to Wolfram Alpha to get these results. And as you can see, it's showing the powered by Wolfram right there. And it's admitted that the results are not very helpful. But look at this. And it's been a long time since I've done calculus, but it's writing out these equations for us, and they're loading them into the interface. So if you're doing detailed research and even need to have a good understanding of the math that's behind it, it's going to find your answer. There's actually a few other important developments that we need to discuss in sharing what Perplexity's been working on. So I've been following Perplexity for quite a few months. When they introduced their document upload feature, that's when I became aware of the things that they were doing. They've continued to raise money. They're in Series A today. They've added Copilot enhancements. They've added collections. These are all newer parts of what they're making available. And then they introduced the API just a month ago in October. Since then, they've provided something else that's very interesting. They are building their own large language model, and they're doing that and making it accessible through an API. So instead of releasing the model, They're keeping the model and they're hosting it, but they're providing an API for you to directly access it. Now, in terms of its capabilities, it's somewhere around the 3.5 GPT level of capability today. They've made the API available and they are doing some additional work to continue to improve it. So this is an active work in progress. Here you can see some of the comparison benchmarks across the various models. Llama 2, GPT 3.5, and Perplexity are all showing up on this map. They are giving an estimation to what the capabilities are. Can you really rely on them for that level of assessment? I think that there is always a bit of caution I would recommend in terms of the evaluation of any model, but they have the full API documentation that's available that tells you exactly what they're doing. They provide an API reference so that you can get started in using their tool. They also have a whole complete guide out here and even a discussion space for you to ask questions on how things are going and where things are headed next. But we're still not done. There's actually more that we need to talk about. And to do that, I want to jump back in because what they've been doing is they have this wonderful opportunity with the playground. In the playground, they are providing an easy way for you to interact with their labs. Basically, what we have is a choice. We can work with Perplexity's online model. They have both a 7 billion and a 70 billion online model, but they're also making select other models available for you to play with. So when we talk about the open source models, Mistral's made a lot of headlines recently, but as I just mentioned, the 8 by 7 billion Mixtral Instruct, that is available for you to work with here as well. So you can actually go to their labs and try out these open models without having to go through the effort of downloading and installing. And they've been very quick in making these available. These may or may not be interesting to you, but I will tell you, if you're not looking at the open models and you're not sure what to look at, taking a drive by labs.perplexity.ai is going to get you in the right place, because I can tell you, having been around the space, Mistral, CodeLlama, Llama, Lava, and Mixtral are all on the list, and I'm really impressed with the quickness that they are coming out with these and making them available for all of us to work with. So don't miss out on the opportunity to play with those. All right, we're already living in the future. I've been using this fantastic tool for research, and it's really transformed the way that I get work done across writing, research, investigating, and really getting the answers I need for everyday work. I greatly appreciate you watching. I'd love to have your thoughts. I'd love to hear from you about what you're excited about in the generative AI space. There's so much to learn. Thanks for watching. Go make some mistakes.